Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hammond, would you do a roll call, please?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Courtesy of the floor and public comment rules. Please observe the rules of council when addressing the body. A full copy of council rules can be found on the city website. Courtesy of the floor and public comment rules. If you would like to speak this evening, we are asking that you fill out a card. They are on the table in the back of the room, and provide them to the clerk before speaking. Please address the council president. You are given privilege of the floor to provide public comment. This is a time to present comments. It is not a question and answer session. If you are speaking on behalf of yourself, you have 3 minutes. And if you are speaking on behalf of a group that has several members present, you will be given 5 minutes. The idea being the entire group does not come up and make the same type of statement. Please be sure to state your name and address for the record and fill out a card. Courtesy of the floor is meant to provide public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Council will take all comments under advisement and have the appropriate officials get back to you if necessary. If you have materials for council, please distribute them to the city clerk. Public comment during consideration of ordinances, resolutions, and motions is limited by topic. Your comments must be relevant. Council will not entertain personal insults or attacks, name calling, or other behavior that is inconsistent with the purpose of conducting official business. Please address the council president. Refrain from using offensive language, cursing, and making noises while other people are speaking. Act with decorum. Remove your hat and turn your cell phones off. Please be aware that comments on your behavior in violation of these rules will result in a forfeiture of all remaining time, and you'll be asked to return to your seat. Thank you. We will start with contract approvals.
Okay, the first contract approval is R204.
Excuse me, we need to do courtesy of the floor
I'm sorry,
first.
yes.
I don't have any
No cards.
cards.
Contract approvals.
Okay, R204 is an authorization for a contract with Wyoming Electric and Signal Inc. in the amount of $237,094.40 for improvements of pedestrian safety along Martin Luther King Drive, Junior, Lee High Street, Union Street, and it was bid through the state. And got us.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Questions or comments? Any questions from the public? Comments from the public?
If you need, this, we can also read through the specifics of the
Certainly.
contract she's available.
Ms. McNeil?
Yes, so this project was advertised to obtain the services of a qualified contractor and not EMS system on the city's behalf on September 29, 2023.
Turn up the volume. Ms. McNeil, very difficult to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, much
Okay.
better.
Sorry about that. The project was advertised to obtain the services of a qualified contractor in PennDOT's ECMS system on the city's behalf on September 29, 2023. The opening was on November 2nd, 2023. There were 5 bidders, with the lowest qualified bid being from Wyoming Electric and Signal Inc. And we have successfully done business with this vendor before.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Ms. Rilla?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Chacon?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. R 205.
I think I had a request for, anyone else to speak, there's no subject matter.
Oh, okay. You just walked in then?
Just courtesy of the phone?
Yeah.
I don't wanna make this quick today, I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be good for us, okay? Today you guys got an important decision to make, okay? About what we're talking about. I'm here for the mayor, so can I speak
Yeah,
now? Or we're talking
no,
about that
you
later?
have to wait until that subject comes up.
Okay,
That
so
is
I
on
don't
the
know what
agenda.
y'all choose, I was asking about the car, so when can I speak about that, you there?
When it comes up. Okay?
Okay, this is our.
Or 205.
205 is an authorization for a, contract price increase of 10% or more. Previously bid contract, and this is with Russell, the amount of $51,000. This is for.
Thank you. Ms. McNeil?
Yes, Mark Driscoll is a previously awarded contract that is requesting additional funds in the amount of $51,000. This is due to an additional services being requested, and due to the cost of the change order being over 10% of the amount, it is being presented here before council.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Mr. Hanlon, conduct the vote.
Ms. Rilla?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Chacon?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, minutes of the previous meeting.
Approval of the November 4th minutes, budget review, action. Ms. Moda?
Yes.
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 Do we have anything for communications? Old business. Seeing nothing, we'll move to committee reports. Special meeting. There will be a special meeting on December 12th at 6:30 PM to review and act on the budget. Water sewer compliance meeting. There will be a water and sewer compliance meeting on December 20th. That time to be determined. Budget and finance. Chairman, Mr. Napoli.
Thanks, Council President Hendricks. The committee has not met since the last council meeting, and the meeting is scheduled for December 20th, time to be determined.
Thank you, Mr. Napoli. Community and Economic Development, Chairwoman, Ms. Moda.
Thank you, Mr. President. The community met this evening and the next is scheduled for December 12th at 5:45 PM.
Thank you. Human Resources Administration and Appointments. Chairman, Chairwoman, Ms. Santos.
Thank you. This committee has not met since the last council meeting, and there are no future meetings scheduled.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Chairwoman, Ms. Gerlach.
Yes, thank you. This committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting is scheduled on December 12th at 6 PM. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Chairwoman, Ms. Zappa.
There are no future meetings scheduled. This is incorrect here, that we met this evening.
No, we didn't.
There are no scheduled meetings.
That's an error on the agenda, if anybody has a printed copy. We did not meet this evening, and nothing to report on that. Public Works, Chairman, Mr. Zook.
The committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for December 12th at 6:15 PM.
Thank you, Mr. Zook. Rules Chambers, Intergovernmental Relations and Strategy. That is my committee. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. There are no future meetings scheduled at this time. And now we'll move on to the Controller's Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. I thought it might be instructive for everyone to take a look, a little dive into overtime. I put together a very brief handout for the public. It's up on the screen. You guys, I'll be happy to autograph these later if you like. You know, we look at the budget, and boy, that overtime number's a big number. But if you ever wondered what goes into it, I thought that I could take a couple of minutes, no more than 3, and kind of break that down for council and also for the public. Now, I decided to use 2022 numbers because we have the full year. So in 2022, overtime for the general fund departments was about $5.8 million. When I say the general fund, that doesn't include what we spent at the golf course or what we spent in the rental fund or stormwater, because those are enterprise funds and are not part of the general fund. Of that amount, EMS, fire, and police accounted for $5.5 million of that, or 94% of the total overtime spend. So it's public safety, which is the main driver and the main user of overtime to meet their mission. In 2021, public safety accounted for about 93% of overtime, and in 2020, they accounted for about 95% of overtime spending. So we can see the pattern is set really over the years. Looking at EMS, about 75% of their overtime usage is used to staff ambulances, to keep the ambulances on the road, meeting the public need. And they need to do that because people are on vacation or people are hurt, but that's what they use most of their time for. About 15% is used for training. We have a very highly trained cohort of technicians, and we spend about 15% of our time doing that. About 10% is used for teaching. These guys are highly trained, and they will go out and maybe teach courses at the school district or the police academy. Now, some of that teaching time is compensated, and we can see that if you look in the general fund revenue account. The 3418 account shows the revenue received for teaching and also for special events. And year-to-date revenue there is over $46,000. So that comes back to us. For the fire department, the overwhelming amount of overtime is used to staff the fire stations. We're now, I think, staffing about 29 guys a shift. The balance of the time, 3% overtime is used for training. You know, we have a very highly trained fire department. When we had that cave-in off of 15th Street, the fact that the fire guys had been trained in extrication, they were able to get this guy out safely, and so he could go home to his family. And so the money, the overtime we spend on training is well worth the investment. The big driver of overtime is really police. And so what I did is I looked at the breakdown that we had and took the top 10 categories that the police use for overtime, and that comes out to about 87.5% of the police department's total overtime are these 10 categories. The first one is shift staffing. People are on vacation, people are hurt, somebody come in on overtime to keep a full complement out on our streets, keeping us safe. At 17% of overtime hours. The next highest one is court, where our police officers, if they're making an arrest, they're going to court, they're at the district justice, they're at common pleas, presenting the case, seeing the justice is done. And that number also includes trial prep. Training, just like we expect our EMS guys and our fire staff to be fully trained, the police spend a tremendous amount of time on training. And that may also include certification on their firearms, which is twice a year. Individual cases, we spend about 10% of our overtime on that. That could be a criminal investigation, often involving detectives, and sometimes juvenile. Shift extension. It might be crime scene investigation. It might be an accident or an incident that's happened at the end of a shift. The officer's not just going home saying my shift is done. They're gonna stay there and finish the job, and that's where this overtime comes into play. Special operations runs about 5%. Now, if you flip this over for a second, we can see what special operations involves. Our police go to school board meetings. We do a drug take-back program, state police overtime. Special operations include our police at the pools in the summer to make sure that they're safe for our kids. We're in the parks, to keep the parks safe. 4th of July overtime. The Allentown Fair Command Post. There's a Keystone Club program that happens to be reimbursed, where overtime might be spent to try and keep the nightlife in check, and a little bit of vice overtime. The next category is call out for non-vice, and this would be crime scene work. The arena accounts for about 6.3% of overtime, and that's broken down into 2 categories. The time our officers spend in the arena, and the time the officers spend outside the arena managing traffic. The time that we spend in the arena is compensated. So you can see there that we get about $63,000 for the time we spend inside the arena. The overtime our officers spend outside the arena managing traffic, managing crowds, is not compensated. So that's just a general fund expenditure. And finally, there is school patrol. There are 4 officers daily, 2 at each high school, who are out between noon and 3, and the school district compensates us for that amount. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is also on the second page, special events. There are city events like Halloween and events like that are city sponsored. If they need police overtime, that just is going to come out of the general fund. There are other special events where we invoice the sponsoring group, for the time that's been spent. The total amount invoiced this year was a little bit over $60,000. So far, we've gotten $54,000 paid. So there's about $15,000 that's owed to us. And most people pay eventually, but not all groups end up paying. And if a group does not pay, they'll probably be denied a permit going forward if they want to do something because they didn't make good on their commitment. So that gives us a look at overtime in a nutshell, so that we all have a better understanding of the kinds of things that go into it and what we're getting for our overtime dollar. If you have any questions, I'll certainly do my best to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions right now? Ms. Gerlach?
Yeah, for, just clarification, for the school patrol, so that's the SROs? Or-
No, this is outside, good question. This is outside the schools, is my understanding.
Like crossing?
They'll be patrolling in the neighborhood and perimeters, but not inside the school, and not the SROs.
Okay, so it's, all right, gotcha. And then for the arena, I didn't get my calculator up yet, so we only get reimbursed for the police who are inside the arena.
Inside the arena, that's correct.
How did that get set up? Like, how did that get set up that our police have to go out and do traffic duty for an entity that is generating revenue?
Well, I can't tell you exactly, it's been a long-standing arrangement. If the chief is here, he may be able to add to that. If not, I'll certainly give you the answer.
Yeah, especially, I mean, a lot of the events are in the evening, and I don't know, but I feel like that's when a lot of stuff happens in the neighborhoods.
And that's why.
And our cops are down there driving.
And that is undoubtedly why you're not using regularly scheduled officers to do this, because they're out in the neighborhoods doing their best to keep them safe, and it's an overtime expenditure.
I appreciate the work you put into this, Mr. Glazer, and I think that, I know myself, this is something I'm just getting now, and I only briefly looked at it earlier. Perhaps any questions we can direct to?
Yeah, just email to me, and it's, Mr. Locke, I'll certainly get you a more definitive answer.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Does anybody else have any brief questions? As I said, if we do have some, let's bring it to Mr. Hamlin and get those answers.
Yeah, just.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move on to the mayor's report.
In the interest of time, and since our city controller slightly exceeded the 3 minutes that he promised he would take, I'm going to defer mayor's report until our next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will move on to ordinances for final passage. There was one item on to be voted on. That will be Bill 93. Mr. Hill.
Bill 93 is an ordinance of the city of Allentown to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of Allentown to add a new section that would establish a new mixed-use overlay zoning district and apply this new district to land formerly occupied by the Allentown State Hospital. That is south of Andover Avenue, south of East Alley Street, south of Main Street, extended generally east of Maxwell Street, extended north of River Drive, and west of the city of Bethlehem border, as depicted.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Am I understanding this was in your committee, Ms. Miller?
Yes, Mr. Yes, Mr. President, and it was, forward, favorably, 3-0.
Thank you. All right, are there any questions, comments from my colleagues? Ms. Gerlach?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Just to clarify procedurally, as a body, as a council, this is the only time that we will vote on anything concerning this, this parcel of land, correct? I know it goes to the planning commission and all that, but as a body, this is our only time.
1 second, I'll get your answer from planning director.
Yes, this is the only council approval on this particular development unless some nuance comes out of it, which is always possible. But this will lay the zoning framework and the text and the map, and then it will get developed then in a 3-stage process. All of that will be reviewed by the Allentown and Valley Planning Commissions.
Okay, thank you. So then I do have questions since this is our one opportunity. When I was reading through the ordinance, it does a good job of spelling out what Ms. Gomez had described in terms of the process that the city and you as developers will go through. I didn't see within that process another public-facing kind of opportunity for the community to weigh in. Like, we know that right now these plans are somewhat preliminary. It's an idea, but that might not be what finally happens. So the fact that there's not mentioned in the ordinance any other further opportunities for the community. I know the pushback will be that they can come to the planning commission. No, I'm talking about other events over on the east side where once you kind of have like the final plan for the public to actually weigh in on and express their concerns, and not just one but like multiple. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that, why it's not in the ordinance, because the ordinance is very detailed and very well written. You all did a good job writing the ordinance. It's just, I find it interesting that that wasn't mentioned in the process.
Good evening, Dennis McCarthy again.
Yeah.
The main answer to the question you've already stated, because there's this 3-step process, there's 3 opportunities at least through the master tentative and final plan for everybody, the administration, the public, to go to the planning commission and be involved. And my guess is each one of those phases is going to involve more than one meeting at the planning commission. So that's kind of answer number 1. Answer number 2, and you're correct, it's not in the ordinance. But I think what you saw with the development of the ordinance and the development of the concept plan, at least for City Center, is a real effort to reach out to the stakeholders and interface with the public and get feedback. I'm not sure there's any element in either the subdivision or land development ordinance or the zoning code that includes that kind of requirement, really for any place else in the city.
No, yeah, that's the problem, but I do know that, just looking at the ordinance, it seems as though, and I think I stated this at the CED meeting, it's definitely written in a way, like, it's written for this, you can tell. So there could have been an opportunity to do something different, there could have been, it's just disappointing that there wasn't. And just the planning commission meetings are at noon during the week when people are working. I did mention during the CED meeting, it would be great, again, it's not written, and if it's not written, then it doesn't matter, it doesn't happen, to have some sort of community needs assessment. Was there any kind of report that was generated based on that meeting at the Eastside Youth Center to really list what ideas were?
No formal report for publication, but it was certainly factored into the thinking and development of the ordinance and the concept plan. And as far as, assessing the needs of the community, the city is, as Ms. Kistler explained, is going through a process of healthcare assessment and housing assessments. And City Center has already reached out to Ms. Kistler to offer help to get East Side residents to respond and provide feedback to that, because we want to know too. And as part of the master plan development, the city's going to have all this data and information, and we certainly want to, and really any developer will want to understand it and react to it. So City Center's committed to helping the city, making those assessments really as valuable as possible.
And if I might add, and I believe you probably have a copy of it there, the city went through an exhaustive process of developing a 10-year comprehensive or community and economic development plan, the Allentown Vision 2030, that has a detailed section on the needs of East Side. So that at that point spoke to some of the needs of the East Side, and we continue to engage the community through our planning department to get a better sense of what the present needs are.
Thank you, and it's great to hear that that conversation between you and Ms. Kistler has happened. Couple other questions. So if there were to be a healthcare facility that was, say, like a nonprofit, that would be tax exempt then? No taxes? No? Not necessarily, okay.
There's taxable outpatient clinical services that could be located on property.
Thank you. Okay, so to the open space question. So another question / concern I have is kind of the flexibility of what counts as open space. So I was looking at the Riverfront Overlay District, which it was stated that this was kind of modeled after that. And for the Riverfront Overlay District, parking lots do not count towards the open land areas. I think they had like a 10% requirement. So I'm curious as to why, with this ordinance, rooftop recreational areas count towards open space. Rooftop recreational areas are only accessible to the residents of that building or businesses of that building, not the general public. And it's not necessarily even like green space, it's recreational space. So that counts towards the open space area. Parking lots that are built for the recreational space, so like the Eastside Youth Center's parking lot counts towards the open space area. If the school district were to have something there, then their recreational space would count towards the open space area. From my reading, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the only guaranteed publicly accessible green space is the trail area.
Again, I'm Charlie Schmidt, Merton Research and Development Corporation. You are correct that a parking lot that is only to serve a recreation area would count as the open space requirement. One of the projects that's envisioned in this plan is a trailhead for the trails along River Drive. And we want to provide a public parking lot to serve those trail users, and that's the type of thing that we thought would be integrated into the open space. The rooftop recreation would only count as open space if there's a deed restriction to guarantee continued use of the recreation area by the residents of the building. So, we are looking at providing for the recreation needs of the residents of the project to reduce the burden on the existing recreation areas in the city in that regard. But the vast majority of the open space would be land along the Lehigh River that would remain wooded, and that would be managed in association with the Wildlands Conservancy, and that would have trails. There also are proposals for smaller recreation areas integrated with the residential areas, and there's also a proposal for a community special event space right along Hanover Avenue, right where all the big trees are. And that's envisioned to be a place where there could be different community activities, festivals, building upon the adjacent commercial area. So we looked at various types of recreation needs on this area. And we also are proposing a recreation area that would be dedicated to the East Side Youth Center, which would probably be used for a soccer field. So there's various types of recreation areas that are proposed and envisioned in the plan, and the ordinance does require 35% of the total land area to be set aside in these areas.
So when I did, thank you, and so when I did the math, that 35% requirement would be met just by that kind of like wooded area that the Wildlands Conservancy is going to give advice on. So technically, to meet that 35%, you wouldn't need to do any other open space because that would be met just by that wooded area.
The current plan envisions 42% open space. To make the residential areas marketable and to make the commercial area marketable, we feel there is a need to have recreation areas integrated with the project, in addition to the natural areas closer to the river.
And the trail, it states in the ordinance that the trail can be gated or closed to the public. It's on page 7, number 5A.
I believe it says at night, is that the case? I'm not.
It says sunrise to sunset. It's just that I can't think of any trails that have like a gate.
Well, the idea is that if there's going to be a public access trail in an area where we're not comfortable with the nighttime security, we'd like to be able to close the trail at night in the same way that many city parks are closed at night. But the trail would be open during daylight hours.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay. My next area of questions concerns, on page 1 of the ordinance, letters, number 1, letter C, it states that the purpose of this overlay district is to widen the housing opportunities, particular for housing types that are in high demand. Doesn't seem like that's what's happening, because according to a article in Lehigh Valley Live in 2023, data from the National Housing Coalition shows that there is a deficit of housing for extremely low income, which would be folks make a family of 3 making less than $25,900 a year. There's 17,726 missing units for that income bracket. There are 16,519 missing units for people who are making between $25,901 and $43,200. There are actually 1,877 missing units for low-income residents, which is about 50 to 80% of AMI. And I'm using Lehigh Valley AMI, which is 95,230. I'm not using Allentown AMI. But then when you get to middle income, which is where it was stated that these units will be targeted towards, there's actually a surplus in the Lehigh Valley of 1,356. There's also a surplus of of availability for above median income of 2,444. So I'm not quite seeing how this will address the high demand. The high demand is for extremely low income, very low income, and low income.
Let me make several points there. There is a severe housing shortage in Lehigh Valley at all types. The Lehigh Valley Planning Commission says the current shortage is 9,000 housing units, and that we need to add 1,320 new housing units each year to keep up with the demand. It is not possible for a private developer to build very low income housing without massive public subsidies. That's true all across the country. There's been some interest expressed that if there's particular partners that want to be involved in portions of the property, that there may be opportunities to do different types of housing. But a private developer cannot build very low income housing on their own. What the goal is to provide additional middle income housing, missing middle housing, the type of housing that's not often being built in the suburbs today. And that will loosen up the housing supply so that more existing units will be available for people who need it. We cannot, no private developer on their own can meet the needs of the very low income population.
Thank you. And then to just expand, not just the very low income, but we're talking low income, which literally, that's most people. According to this data, that's people who are making just over $40-something thousand a year. That's most people. So middle income, according to this Lehigh Valley Live article, would be about $95,000. So.
Most people would have a wider definition of middle income than $95,000 a household.
Oh, this isn't mine. This is from the National Housing Coalition.
Right. But the popular definition would be much more broader than that.
Appreciate that. So in terms of the public access and the open space, the reason why I ask these questions is because when I look downtown and I look at the development that's been done thus far, there is not public access. The dog parks are for the residents, the recreational facilities that the buildings have are for residents. So I get, that's where my concern is. My concern is we're gonna have isolated communities like we do downtown, because that's what we have.
There is potential for the city to own some of the open space. That's a matter of public discussion. The city has to decide whether they want it or not, but that is a matter of discussion. Some of the open space could be dedicated to the city as parkland, particularly some of the land along the river with public trails.
I appreciate you indulging my questions. I know I have a lot, so thank you. That's all I got. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
So we had a resident this evening that was concerned about the extra services needed. Has there been any studies on the fiscal impact of what this project will bring to just help East Side residents know how those costs will be offset?
Yeah, so upon full build out of the entire site, we are estimating there's gonna be annually $9.3 million generated in tax revenue between city, county, and school district.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on council? Questions or comments? Ms. Sapp?
I'd like to address, with Tina Lavione, your question about public safety, and I agree with you. And I've stated this before, our city is growing in leaps and bounds. There's a waterfront, there's the Northridge. We have all this going on, and I believe, I've said it, we need a larger, bigger police force. Now, the fact that we're having a lot of tax revenue coming from there, I'm sure is gonna help pay to get more police, which is going to be an advantage to us. According to the chief, this time around, we had more applicants than we have had in the last several years. So I believe it's an uptick for the police department that there are men and women out there that want to serve. And I believe with the projects in the growing city, with the tax revenue, it's gonna shore up our police department. I think it's gonna even be better.
If I could respond slightly to that, so one thing that is attractive to recruiting new police officers is the supportive city environment, and including within that a supportive city council as well. So the actions the city council takes certainly has an ability on our, or has an impact on our ability to recruit new officers. We certainly, with additional tax revenue created by the development on the site and with the growing attractiveness of the city of Allentown, we'll be able to meet the public safety needs and address the traffic concerns that arise as a result of additional development on the east side. But this is part of the development process. The additional development permits us to make investments in our city that allows it to be safer, cleaner, and healthier for all of our residents.
Did I answer your question?
Thank you, Ms. Haffa. Anybody else on the dais? Any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Dan Blunt, pastor of Ripple, co-pastor. You asked all the questions I wanted to ask. I'm just wondering, you know, with the low-income housing, and you can't do anything for them, which one of the families, the Bootses, the Jandos, and Mr. Riley, who's gonna help the poor? Who's gonna help those people?
Mr.
You
Blunt,
keep building and building,
please,
oh, to you.
address me.
My bad, sorry.
That's okay.
But anyway, who's gonna cry for those people? Because those people need help. I mean, if you look around, man, there's so many people that needs help. When you look around at the homeless, I mean, you can build something for them. Something, if it's nothing but those little houses that they have out west. Do something for the homeless. Do something for the people who are less fortunate than those who have. It's time that we just help everybody. You know, if the rich was to look out for the poor, it would wipe out poverty. But the reality is that nobody cares. They all care about money. And that's not fair to the people that keeps feeding you their money.
That's right.
Come on, y'all. Somebody gotta help us, man. We need help. Not just in Allentown, but worldwide. We need help with the poor. Look out for some poor folk one time and see how God bless you. I mean, you're blessed already, but nevertheless.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt.
Barbara Redmond, NACP Allentown. My question is, the Hanover Avenue, mental hospital was for to help people, and that was to help people, so why can't you, do something to help the people? Again, use that facility to help people, because that facility was to help the mental ill people, and it was a facility to support people that were in need. So why don't you take that facility and help people in need again? I don't understand that. You're taking from the poor again and giving to the rich, and I just don't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Phoebe Harris, 1817 17th Street, West Allentown, also school board. I'm trying to figure out this, because they're saying that some of the taxes will go towards our school district. And NISA said the same thing. We were supposed to get $5 million, and they devalued the properties there. We don't even get $1 million. So I saw that original contract from Mayor Pulaski that we were supposed to get $5 million from the NISA zone. So to me, this is another bait and switch. How do I know that we're gonna really get that money for the school district? I don't, because that's what was promised before, and that's not what we're getting again. And not helping we are 100% free lunch, y'all. Deemed by the federal government. How can you tell me you're building these houses for those who are the rich? Not even the middle class are getting those homes. We gotta do better. So I'm asking you to look at this completely. Look at the numbers. And if the numbers are not adding up, because what he just said didn't add up. As far as $9 million, it didn't add up. So I'm asking you to completely research this and do right by our people here in Allentown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Simpson, 215 North 9th. My issue again is we're widening the gap. 51% of our students right now are below the poverty line. We're not addressing the needs. Poverty is violence. If we continue to ignore what's going on, it don't matter how many police you have. If I'm homeless, hungry, and have nowhere to go, jail is a great place to be, especially in the wintertime. It's warm there. I may get 3 hots in a cot. We're not creating a safer environment if we keep increasing the poverty rate, if we keep extending the gap. And then we talk about these tax increases. You know, half of you voted for a tax increase when we just heard there are things that aren't being paid for, and we have so many people struggling. As we build these new developments, as we do what we do, we can't keep neglecting the people that are here. Because those people, sooner or later, can't leave. So what are they gonna do? You know, I said it before, when I was homeless or hungry, I'd rob you in front of the police. You couldn't stop me. My babies they had needs. My fear wouldn't be what you think it would be. My fear would be looking in my daughter's eyes and saying, I can't provide a meal today. Looking in my daughter's eyes and saying, we're not gonna be warm again today. See, I don't know if you've ever been in that position, but I have. I know what it's like, even as a business owner, to see the bills not come in. There's been times I've paid my staff and slept outside because I felt for my community that well. You know, we can't keep extending the gap. We can't keep tripping over our own feet. We can't keep increasing the violence and then going, well, we're gonna get more police. That's gonna overburden them, and they still haven't gotten the support that they need. As we make decisions, let's make decisions for the people that are currently living here and the burdens that they face on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any of you, somebody cares, this is I'll be speaking on behalf of Eddie Cares, right? I currently have a camp that I call the care camp, okay? There's 22 people in my camp that I cater to every day, living in tents, okay? I provide blankets, food, you name it. That's just my camp. There's 6 others across the city. That's not including the people that are living in their cars. I got about 16 families, I'm up to 16 now. 4 of them have 4 kids in each car, okay? This is active cases I can show you my phone on right now, okay? And the local hotels are getting rich, okay, off our homes, okay? Our hotels are full with homeless people. And this gentleman just said he wants to build a building, okay? And they don't have enough money to give me a small building like this. I have a plan to curb homelessness in the city of Allentown. Curb hunger and our children, okay? It's $5.5 million for the building. I need another $10 million to make it happen. So with $16 million, I can do it. And not by myself, but every nonprofit that's really out here doing the work. Because we've been doing it out here, ladies and gentlemen, okay? If these people can't do for us, why should we do for them, okay? These people are living in the car, and I would love to take these gentlemen down to my camp. And I hope none of you guys touch my camp, okay, without a solution. I would die for that camp, on the record, okay? Before we find a solution, don't touch it, okay? These gentlemen need to do for us, before we do for them. Because right now, this gentleman is doing bad, and no one, okay? So before we make a decision, you guys, come down to my camp, and let me show you what the real deal is, okay? Before we start giving these guys more space to keep pushing us out, okay? That's what they do, okay? You wanna build a building with a playground on top of it, and we can't get to it? You tell me you're gonna build a path and I can't run through it? I run 3 miles a day. You're gonna put a gate up? That's public land. If people can sleep in our parks every single day, then I can take you to 20 parks in Allentown, there's people sleeping in them, okay? And that's public access, then we should be giving the access. If they're worried about people sleeping on there, then we should be worried about people sleeping in our parks too, okay? Not just on his land. If that's gonna be a public way, it's gonna be public, there's gonna be no gates up. That's right. Okay, no restrictions here. Okay, not to the people of Allentown. Stop pushing us out. Stop allowing these guys to push us out. If these guys don't do for us, we ain't do for them. God forbid I become mayor. It'll be a whole lot of different things going on around. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good evening. Arno Armstrong, 1516 West Turner Street. I'd like to remind council that this project was foisted on the people of Allentown when the state sold this property to a single developer for a pittance. Council should insist that they be able to direct the future of the city, not Harrisburg, and not a single developer. Council should send a clear message and refuse to rezone this property and pursue organic development options instead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speaking again. Cece, you brought up some great points that I'd like to touch upon as well. You had mentioned about the public meetings, our planning commission would be the only other time you'd be able to speak. Is there a certain website or communication that I'm not aware of that this stuff is posted, or a notice besides the Morning Call newspaper that had, for instance, this meeting in? That's what I would like to know, if there's anything further scheduled public hearing wise.
I think the city should answer that, but to my knowledge, the planning commission meetings are on the city's website, so you would go there. In terms of if Mr. Riley were to graciously have more public meetings, I think that would be on him to communicate that with the residents.
Like for instance, you're talking about the East Side Youth Center meeting. I had no knowledge of that, and that's right down the road from me. So I didn't know if it was something like, say, on a Facebook page or some kind of communication, if there was something else out there.
It was actually an advertisement for the call also.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't get the morning call.
But it is scheduled for all posted, the planning commission meetings all are posted.
This planning commission meetings are the second Tuesday of every month, at 12:15.
There's a lot of crosstalk.
How many flyers were sent out, Mr. Hammond?
Oh, you mean for the mailing notice?
Yes.
Probably 250.
250 was mailed out for meetings here on this subject.
Yeah, I received the first one in, I believe the meeting was in September, but I've received no further communication since. So that's why I just like to stay in the loop, and I was wondering if I was missing something as far as communications. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Seeing none. Mr. Hanley.
Okay, on Bill 93, rezoning. Mr. Knapp.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
No.
Mr. Zuko.
No.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Appa.
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach.
No.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Move on to the consent agenda.
There are 3 items on the consent agenda. certificate of appropriateness of one of the historic districts at 110th Street, 1529 Turner Street, 531 Allen Street, 1539 Q Street, 1543 West Linden Street. The second resolution is authorization of disposition of certain records.
Yeah, plus.
Last item.
Can we have quiet, please? We're trying to conduct business. Ms. Caller? Thank you.
Last one is a sewage planning module for restaurant at 7.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions on any of the items? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mrs. Zupa?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Alright.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Moving on to resolutions for final passage.
It's R202, it's a denial of a certificate of appropriateness at 213 North 11th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. I believe this was in your committee, Ms. Miller?
Yes, Mr.
Tonight.
Yes, and it was denied due to the lack of communication between the homeowner and, the city. And he also didn't show up for tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from my colleagues? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Mr. Zupa?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. R209.
R209 is the appointment of 4 police officers.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Council, Chief Roca, Allentown Police. Before you tonight, I have 4 officers that I'm gonna put forth. The first is Eric Reyes, 25 years old of Allentown. He graduated from William Allen High School and took classes in criminal justice at Northampton County Community College and East Stroudsburg University. Excuse me. He's fluent in Spanish and he'll be attending the Allentown Police Academy in January 2024. Joshua Cabrera is 21 years old of Oak Ridge, New Jersey. He graduated from Jefferson Township High School and received his associate's degree in criminal justice from the County College of Morris. Joshua will be attending the Allentown Police Academy in 2024 in January. Brandon Velez is a 22-year-old of Lower McCountry Township. He graduated from Emmaus High School and obtained his associate's degree in criminal justice from El-Tri-C and is currently working towards obtaining his bachelor's in criminal justice from Kutztown University. Brandon is fluent in Spanish and will be attending the Allentown Police Academy in January of 2024. And finally, Justin Rosso is a 23-year-old resident of Warfield. He graduated from the Metropolitan Expeditionary Learning School in Queens, New York. He's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and he'll be attending the Academy in January of 2024. This brings us closer to our complement, but we are going to have about 8 officers retire altogether. We had about 5 right now. So it brings us to our full complement as we're working towards that number.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
And I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions, comments from my colleagues?
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Unless. No. Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the
Okay,
vote.
on the appointment of the police officers, Mr. Zupa?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
No.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
6 yeas and 1 nay.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. R210.
R210 authorizes the submission of an application for funding from the local share account grant in the amount of up to $300,636 to purchase a bucket truck for traffic and plan.
So this, like, in the previous two meetings, part of the local share account application process, we need a resolution from city council authorizing us to make application. In this case, this is similar, I think a couple of years ago, we received about $750,000 for the purchase of a fire truck. In this case, we're gonna be asking the state for assistance for the purchase of a bucket truck.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Ms. Gerlach?
Yes, and if you will indulge me, my question will also be pertinent to, R211 and R212. Just in general, like, how is it decided, what the money is spent on? So in this case, it's a bucket truck and then
So what we
later.
apply for?
Yeah,
So these are applications that are made, so in the case of the bucket truck, we're applying for support directly as the city of Allentown. In the case of R211, that is, the bond school is making the application to the state local share account. And in the case of R212, that's the Allentown City School District, making application to the same body for support of community outreach related to the development of athletic facilities at Andre Reed Park. So broadly speaking, the decision, what we decide to apply for is what the department or the nonprofit organization needs support with. Ultimately, it comes down to the state. So we end up competing with each other. So the state LSA will have to decide between, they have a fixed share of money that they allocate across all of the 67 counties in the state. So we, whatever department is willing to put together the grant application for support of their activity, will do that.
okay, I better understand, not fully, but I better understand, thank you.
I'd elaborate, so your local legislators can probably, your local representatives can probably help better understand, but there's two different types of LSA money. There's a local share account, which is related to gaming funds, which is
Right.
smaller dollars. So we recently received support for the Pound for Pound boxing gym under that program, which is about $50,000. This is the LSA statewide. So there is a group of legislators at the state level that will support applications. So we can count on our local legislators supporting these applications to that board, but they'll typically support all of the Allentown applications. Statewide, I don't know what the total amount that is awarded is, but we always fight to get as much as possible awarded to applications in the city of Allentown.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else on the dais? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Application, Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Affa.
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Appley.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. R211.
11 approves the submission of application for the local share grant account on behalf of the bond school to support upgrades.
Thank you. Questions or comments from my colleagues? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Ms. Affa.
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Ms. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays.
Thank you. R212.
R212 approves the submission of an application for a local share grant on behalf of the Allentown School Districts to support hiring of a consultant to lead a public engagement process to develop the master plans for the city and school district.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments, questions from my colleagues? Ms. Gerlach?
So this is for Andre Reed Park then?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so no other parcels, just Andre?
No,
Reed?
it's for development of athletic facilities around here at high school. My preference is that we talk to the community and assess the feasibility of development of not just the Andre Reed Park site, but potentially the former football field site that's presently owned by the school district. This is an application that was assisted by Senator McMiller's office in response to your concerns and my concerns about addressing the needs of the residents around the Andre Park area, or Andre Reed Park area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the dais? Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Mr. Hanlon? Oh, I'm sorry.
question for you. What football field are you talking about?
The field on Tillman Street, the former practice field.
Oh, the practice
Yeah.
field. You wanna develop that? That was an old dump. It's not solid. I mean, it's nothing but problems. You cannot level that out.
We're gonna talk to the community.
Okay, so,
I hope it isn't, so this is funding, it's
I
not the
understand,
award.
okay, and so I understand that, so with that, you will get our report, because we did a report on that.
The report that we've seen, and I think this is one of Councilperson Gerlach's concerns from a few weeks ago, is that report was conducted and prepared without really any input from people who live in the area around Library Park.
I
So
understand.
this will go further to assess community feedback.
So good, so then they will get the report and let them know what exactly is underneath that field that is not practical to use. So I'm looking forward to that.
As are we.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hanlon, conduct the vote, please.
Ms. Gerlach,
Yes.
Ms. Fodor,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Zuko,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
and Ms. Evans.
Yes.
President Sidney.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. R214.
R214 is a resolution that expresses no confidence in the mayor's statement.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon.
Are we skipping R213? For the whole, all right.
We can't hear you.
Oh, R 213 was removed. R 214 is a resolution that expresses no confidence in the mayor's leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Comments from my colleagues?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, obviously, it appears that I'm the only one that wants to try to show some leadership here, because if you're here to see whether or not there's gonna be 7 votes or 5 votes, ask for your refund, because it's not gonna exist, okay? In the 60s, a group called Peter, Paul, and Mary wrote a song about blowing in the wind, and one of those verses were, how many times must a person turn their head and pretend they don't see? Well, that's what's been happening here for the last 2 years. When we took office, Mr. Turk, we had 5 good department directors. Since that time, every one of them have left this city. Some you have gotten rid of, some who have left on their own because they have stated that they can no longer work for you. In addition to that, 5 deputy directors and/or supervisors have left the city for the same reasons. It was said to me by a gentleman who had almost 30 years of experience here that he left before his employment future was ruined, because he received information from a fellow employee that you were going to use his current supervisor or department director to have him terminated. A second individual told me he left here, a very good individual, by the way, told me he left here because you asked him to do some things that he felt were against his integrity, and that if he wouldn't have left, you probably would have fired him. As you know, about 10 days ago, an article appeared on Lehigh Valley News about the mayor firing one of the individuals in the HR office. Well, let's be factual, because that day there were 3 fired. This individual was an employee in the HR department, and part of your job, I believe, when you're in the HR department, is to filter complaints. Part of that individual's job was to filter complaints. People came to her with issues, whether they were workplace harassment, racism, discrimination, whatever. She took it upon herself to do her job, and as a result, she ended up with a target on her back. And as a result, she eventually lost her job. As you know, sometime this past summer, we hired an HR director, and we actually did an outside study to get him. We spent around $30,000. Short time after he was here, he was terminated. If you recall, on the very first night that he spoke to the press, he stated that I was terminated because I refused, and I'm not gonna use names, I don't play that game. I was terminated because I refused to fire that employee, which is the same employee that was terminated. That employee also filed an EEOC complaint. If you know anything about EEOC complaints, one of the very first things you cannot do is to harass, intimidate, or terminate without just cause. And that's why I called you out as far as this being retaliatory. She received, and when you file an EEOC complaint, they receive the complaint, they look at it, they evaluate it, they notify you within 10 days whether or not there's justification for the complaint, and they also notify the employer. She was notified on Thursday before Thanksgiving. Now, he had an opportunity for how many months to terminate her? She was fired on Monday. If that doesn't show retaliation, I honestly, I don't know what does. So that's why I called you out. And if you remember on Thanksgiving, you sent me a text thanking me for caring for and having compassion and commitment for the citizens. Thank you, because I do. And I will continue. The budget. Last year you sat here and you said you were a guru. Well, how can you be a guru when you come before us with a 6.9% budget increase and 23 new positions? That's, I personally cannot explain that, so, and I know you've tried. And then, when that failed, you came back at us asking for a 2% raise. We said we aren't gonna do that. So, the majority of council, the majority of council voted against that. Then you started with threats. Why the threats? You know, we could work things out. If we would talk, we could work things out, but there's no communication. I gotta ask you, seriously, my colleagues, I gotta ask you, what's the magic number for people to leave, department directors, whatever, to leave, people to be terminated, people to wanna leave on their own? What is the magic number? Because if there's a magic number, then we probably shouldn't even be here. We should wait till we reach that number. I can only say two things about this. Either you believe what some people will say tonight and what I've said and vote yes, or you can say none of this is true and vote no, and we continue to turn our heads. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the dais who wishes to speak?
I just, you know, I've been here a year. I've been doing a lot of watching and learning, and you know, I've noticed that there is a lack of cooperation between council and administration, and I think I can't speak for the administration, but I think there's blame on our side. I think we need to do a better job of communicating. Listen, there are going to be disagreements. That's the way it goes. You know, we can agree to disagree, but we have to be professional. We have to work together, because at the end of the day, we're serving residents. And you know, what's happening here tonight, I'm very disappointed, because it's taking our eye off the ball when it comes to serving our residents. That's really what we're here for. It's what we spend our time here. And I don't spend a lot of time here in the building, maybe 3 hours a week, average. But it's mentally draining what's happening. And if that's happening to me 3 hours a week because of what's happening here with this situation, I can only imagine what it's doing to our employees. Folks that spend 40, 45, 50 hours a week serving our residents day in and day out. It's grueling. And you know, I do feel for the complaints. Those complaints were heard. If I remember, we authorized an investigation based on those complaints. We heard them. I believe it was 7-0. And I'm anxious for this investigation to begin, to find out what happened. And based on the conclusion of that investigation, I think it's the appropriate time to take action. But I don't think that time is now, because we haven't heard what really happened. We've heard it for 2 years. We've heard the issues.
But you'll have an opportunity to speak. Now is not the time.
Thank you.
So we've heard from the parties. Again, we've heard. But I think I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not a professional figuring this out. It's not our job duty. Our job duty is to hear the complaints Our job duty is to act on them and authorize an investigation and let the professionals handle it and let us know what happened, right or wrong. And then our job is to take action and say, okay, you know, whatever the case may be. And I can't speak to that because we don't know what it is. We haven't even gotten to that point. So, you know, I think that's my big concern. I mean, listen, you know, in the springtime, I mean, I spent a lot of time speaking with residents this spring. I knocked on doors in every neighborhood of the city. And the one thing I heard many things: lack of affordable housing, obviously, quality of life, on the tip of everyone's tongue. But one of the big ones too was, don't be like Washington. Residents don't want dysfunction. They don't want a situation where people can't work together. We see it in Washington, nothing gets done. We make fun of them. We say how crazy it is. I don't want that to happen here, because if this happens here, residents lose. It's that simple. Residents will lose, and that's a shame, because we're here to serve residents. We're here to do the best we can for them. And I just think that, you know, if we create gridlock, it's gonna be a tough 2 years, because I just feel like we're not gonna be able to get anything done. And I just don't want it to be where, you know, I know the media likes it, but I don't want this to turn into a reality show. Reality shows, we watch them, dysfunction, drama, you know, it's not something that is nothing good comes out of it. So again, I want to see more cooperation between council and administration. We're going to butt heads sometimes. Contrary to popular belief, I butt heads with the administration from time to time. It's one of those things where we're never going to agree on everything. They're going to do things with how they feel best, and it's tough because, you know, we all have our ideas. We see it all the time. I mean, I'm a football fan, and a coach comes into my team and he does things a certain way. I want him to do it a different way. I want him to run the ball. He just keep passing. But what are you gonna do? He's a coach. And that's the thing that I think we have to take into consideration. I know Mr. Zuckel made a point about folks leaving. I know for a fact, you know, what I read after post-COVID, a lot of municipalities had this issue. I'm not gonna say that's the issue for every employee that left, but a lot of companies and organizations lost employees post-COVID. There was a lot of movement. I'm really happy with who's in place. I love our department heads are doing a great job. And I'm happy with who we have right now. And if you listen to me from time to time, I'm always advocating for our employees. And again, the employees in question, the two that really started this, that not started it, but created the need for the investigation. I want to hear what happened, because we need to hear. They were our employees too, and so when I talk about our 835 employees, they're included. We need to find out what happened, and once we do, take those appropriate actions. And then to me, that's what's fair. I think we're putting the cart before the horse tonight. I just think that we need to learn more. I think that if any one of us in this room were sitting in that chair, we would want the same opportunity to let things play out and find out what happened. And that's all I'm asking. And I think when that time comes, if we have to take action, I'm on board. But
You'll have an opportunity, not now.
Ed, hold up, Ed, wait your turn.
How you doing, Mr. Santos?
Yeah, listen, very quickly, all I want to do is I want to get to what we need to get our work done. We have a budget to wrap up. We have a housing study that's approaching the finish line, and we can help our residents. We have a community reinvestment fund that we need to launch and implement. If we gotta stop, if we take our eye off the ball, these other things don't get done, or they don't get done well. And again, it all comes down, there's always gonna be one, it's the entity that loses is our residents. It's like, I just don't want them to see that happen. So again, we have a lot to do. I think this is a matter that should be addressed at an appropriate time. I just think tonight's a little too early based on the lack of knowledge, what we have. So that's just my thoughts. Thanks for the extra time.
Can I respond?
Thank you,
to him,
Mr.
please?
Santos.
Can I respond to him?
No, let,
What do you
everyone
mean?
has an opportunity to speak first before you.
Okay,
speak
let's speak
second.
first, then I'll
That's
speak.
the rule.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Wow.
Ms. Ethel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know what we hope to accomplish tonight with this. We can't do anything about it. We can't remove him. We can't remove anybody in council. We can't fire anybody. We don't have that power. What are we gonna accomplish here? We're gonna accomplish more of a wedge with the mayor. Things will get only worse. How can we sit up here and vote for no confidence and then try to work with the man that is our mayor, who most of you voted in? I believe what we need to do is, can I please talk? What I think we need to do as council and residents is to, you dress him down. I mean, anything that you could find about the mayor, you did. But Mr. Supel, what do you think you're gonna accomplish tonight by that? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Tomorrow, he will still be our mayor. Tomorrow, I would like to be able to call him, go to his office, which I have, and most of us, and all of us can, at any time. The mayor and I had a conversation way in the beginning, screaming at each other on the phone, telling him what I wanted from him as a leader, telling him that I wanted him to, what the things I expected from him. He disappointed me at times, and other times I understood. And with this budget, I have found one thing during this budget hearing. He was the one that was negotiating. We weren't negotiating, no taxes, no taxes, no taxes. He cut all the fat as far as he could possibly go. And he showed me one thing. I'm not saying that everything Mr. Zuppel is saying, that's his opinion. I have my opinion. I don't think he did everything right as a leader. But a vote of no confidence is certainly, we did it with one mayor who had 42 indictments against him, and he was still voted in as mayor. So what are we gonna accomplish here? We're only gonna put a wedge between council and the mayor. And as long as this man is our mayor, I'm going to try to work with him. I will tell him when he's wrong. I will vote against him when I think he's wrong. And this is the way you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to say, I don't like him, hatchet job, let's get rid of him. You can't. So there's no purpose to this whole thing. And like Mr. Napoli said, we have so much to work with here, so much to work with, and we can't take our eye off the ball and have these distractions over and over and over again. We have this mayor for 2 more years. Let's try to work with him rather than put a wedge and make things even worse on council and for our city. And when Mr. Napoli said, you citizens, he's not kidding. Ask him how much sleep he got last night. Not much. None of us did. This is distraction. This is painful. Shut up!
That's not the way you talk to us.
No.
You're a leader. You're a leader. You're supposed to be bad. Be quiet and good.
Anybody else in the
Who gives you the right to talk to people like that?
Leadership.
You are the main one to shut up.
Sir.
I have had
She does not talk to me.
Mr. Hamlin or Mr. Solicitor, can someone
You just
check
heard before you address me. Eddie.
Right back.
Remove it.
You address her before you address me.
Officers, he does not come back in tonight.
That's what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted. If she says shut up.
All right, that's enough from the back of the room, or you can leave also. Nobody speaks when you're speaking. Anybody else in the guys? I would like to say also, then I'll let you go. I do not agree with this movement either. There is nothing positive in this resolution. I have negotiated with the mayor, and he has been more than fair. He started with a 7% increase in the budget. He negotiated with me on behalf of council down to 2%. Removed every position, new position he had put forth. He has been more than reasonable in this endeavor. I don't agree with everything that the mayor has done. And I voted against him on things, and I will continue to if I don't agree with them. But again, there's nothing positive to come out of this. People look at this, and I'm gonna say this to you people. You people who are the citizens of this city.
Would you say the residents
All of
instead
you
of you
residents
people,
of the
please?
city.
The residents instead of you people, please.
All of you residents, you voted for some of us you didn't. But this is your city. This is nothing positive that reflects on our city. We got an email today from a person who was very upset. And they said they moved here from a distance away, and they love the city. But when they see our council meetings now and this resolution, they're thinking about moving. They said this is similar to Washington and some of our other major cities where they have such disruption. I would encourage my colleagues to vote no on this, and let's move forward and work and engage with the mayor to do the best we can for the citizens of our city and those taxpayers. Thank you. Mr. Zucker?
Yes, two things. Maybe Mr. Santo, you can explain to me why none of this occurred under the O'Connell administration, number one. And number two, we talk about this outside investigation. But yet the administration has done everything they can to block it or interfere with it. So when you say about cooperation, I don't know what your definition of cooperation is. It's definitely not mine. And as far as the citizens go, absolutely right. It's gonna hurt them, because you know why? There's gonna be lawsuits filed as a result of wrongful terminations, and who knows after the investigation, how many more there may be. Yes, you're absolutely right. It is about the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the dais? Ms. Gerlach?
I don't think anyone slept well last night. And some of us are on different spectrums of how we're gonna vote. I've been stressed. And here's the thing. So it never feels good to have such resolution in front of you, but leadership isn't about always feeling good. Sometimes there's moments of tension, sometimes there's heated moments. And it is possible to work with folks of whom you have publicly stated, I don't agree with your leadership. I'm testament of that. In 2020, there are folks on this council who censured me, attempted to censure me, and said that they did not want me on council, that my leadership lacked, and I am now working with one pretty extensively. I can talk to you, Miss Affa. We're cordial with one another. We still work with one another, even though you all publicly stated y'all don't want me here. So it is proof that you can have very public and heated disagreements and still work with one another and get the job done. So I just wanted to point that out. And I would just urge each of you, I know we'll have public comment, but I would just urge each of you to really think back to over the last 2 years and kind of do a little tally chart, and how many times have there been situations, occurrences that raised an eyebrow for you. And if that's happened, and if you know of things that we can't say publicly right now, we know of things. if that is of concern to you, again, this isn't saying, Mr. Turk, you're horrible. It's saying that we've got concerns about your leadership, just like you all said to me. You all said that my actions were a detriment to my service on council, and yet I'm calling you, I'm texting you, I'm here with you right now. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't, I don't know, we might not get invites to Mayor Turk's cookout, but that's okay, as long as we can work together, as long, you know, and the point is, saying yes to a no confidence vote does not automatically say that we will never work together, because if that were the case, you and I, Ms. Apple, would never have had a conversation. Mr. Zuko and I would never be calling each other. I wouldn't even say hi to you, Mr. Hendricks. So therefore, we can work together. We're working together right now.
Thank you. Anybody else on the dais that hasn't had an opportunity to speak? Okay, I will now open it.
Can I speak briefly? Mr. Hendricks? Mr.
Go ahead.
President? So I'm going to take some advice from a friend who recommended that when other folks go low, I continue to go high. So I'm going to stay as high as possible here. I think that's a quote from a friend, another friend in politics, Michelle Obama. We also but I want to quote another politician. I think it was Daniel Moynihan, who said that people are in fact entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. A lot of what you stated, Mr. Zuko, and I'm going to take this opportunity to communicate with you, because you talked about communications, or needing communications, and I'm glad to know that you do answer text messages from Councilperson Gerlach, because you certainly don't answer them from me. You don't take my phone calls either. So I'll take this opportunity to speak with you, because this seems to be the only opportunity that I do have to speak with you. And I'll go back to, you obviously read the text messages that I send you, because you read the one that I sent on Thanksgiving, and I do respect the work that you do, but respectfully speaking, I think the work that you're doing up here is diminishing a level of respect for this body. And we can see that, you talk about the O'Connell administration, I'm disappointed in the behavior of some of the citizens of the city of Allentown, some of the residents of the city of Allentown, who have not permitted elected officials, people that probably everybody here voted for, to have their opportunity to speak. I think that these types of activities, they diminish, they lower the integrity of the entire body of city council. So I think what you're doing is and I've got thick skin. You can say that you have no confidence in me, but it doesn't bother me at all. The half-truths that you continue to espouse are disappointing, because I think people look at you and they believe that you speak the truth, but I think you haven't done all of your research, sir, respectfully speaking. It's a two-way street. I do respect the work that you do. I'll continue to respect you as a legislator. I'd ask that in return you do respect me as the mayor. I think, and I believe you stated that you were the author, Ms. Gerlach, of the resolution. I believe I read that in one of the newspapers. You're the author, okay. Then there's no respect for the administration. That's disappointing. I'm going to continue to try to offer respect to you in hopes of continuing to earn, or I believe earn your respect. I know that I've earned the respect of many of the other city council people who do engage in productive dialogue with me and with the administration. I'd ask you to reconsider your positions and return to communication, because that is the only way that we're gonna get there together. That is the only way that we're gonna serve the residents of this city. So I'm asking you to put this aside, return to communication, and let's get back to business. I think that I want to clarify a little bit on what Mr. Napoli spoke to. I think that when he says that this is a distraction and this can be damaging to morale for our city employees, it's not because this is a mess. You guys right now, the city council people, when you engage in this type of stuff, this is not legislating. This is not the work of a city council person. The work of a city council person is to serve the needs of the residents. That's what they elected you to do, and that's what I asked you to do. I asked you to collaborate with me and with my administration to meet the needs of the residents. So that's the work that we want to get back to. If you can put this type of stuff aside and just focus on the work, I think we're all gonna be in great shape. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. You got my number, always happy to talk to you. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay.
Council President, if you may,
Sure.
the administration would like to provide a prepared statement regarding the recent firings. I'll start by saying this is not typical, but there has been a lot of public discourse and reporting in the media, so we'd like to share the following statement. In April 2022, the Solicitor's Office retained outside independent counsel to investigate multiple complaints involving employees within the city's Human Resources Department. Due to the nature of the complaints involving individuals in that office and to ensure an impartial investigation, it was essential to involve external counsel as Human Resources could not conduct the investigation internally, obviously. The 18-month-long investigation involved interviews with 25 city employees. Following the conclusion of this investigation, a report was generated recommending the termination of 3 employees in the Human Resources Department. Mayor Turk met with the outside counsel from Bingham and Hess, who conducted the investigation, and McMahon Linehauser, who represent the city. After careful consideration, the mayor decided to follow the recommendations put forth by the investigation and terminate the employee of the 3 individuals. As is the case in all human resource related matters across industries, municipalities, and even in the corporate world, we cannot provide details about the specific findings of the investigations. The interviews, findings, and conclusions are confidential employment matters that cannot be disclosed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So now that that's public, I have a couple questions. When did the investigation conclude?
November 2023.
What date?
We can get you more information. I have no further
I think my
comment.
letter is November 2nd, 2023.
You said what?
I have a November 2nd, 2023 is when I was presented with findings.
November 2nd, the outside investigator presented you, Matt Turk, with the findings. Okay. When did in the letter that the memo that you referenced, it stated that the mayor recently had a conversation with the investigator. When did that conversation happen? What is recently? I just asked because everything else is dated, like months and years and everything. That isn't, it just says recently.
We're not gonna answer that question.
Okay. Next question is, how much was paid to the outside investigator? Not the one, the McMahon that handles the EEOC, but the outside investigator that investigated the HRC.
I don't have that information immediately available.
Is anyone?
We don't have that information right now.
Okay. Next question is, we were led to believe during an executive session, and publicly I've said it, so I might as well say it here, that an outside investigator would not be able to access confidential information. Did this investigator have access to confidential information?
I can't answer your question right now.
Next question is, with everything going on, why are we just now learning that there was an investigation for over a year? Like when the previous HR director was terminated and that was public and there was an executive session about that, why wasn't it told to council that there was an investigation?
As we detailed, those are personal matters, and we're not gonna comment on them.
Okay. Last question, the document states that, quote, a number of other changes to the HR office were recommended. If these, quote, other changes are not of a personnel matter, can we have a copy of the recommendation?
I'm gonna put that in the hands of the future HR director.
So there are some matters that were not personnel related, they were, you know, maybe procedural or something that we
Discuss
did.
that with the future HR director.
Can we see the contract that was given to this, outside investigator.
I can't answer that right now, we can defer that to our legal counsel, to our solicitor.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I will now open it up to public for comments.
Again, Ms. Phoebe Harris, Allentown School Board. Question for you, all of you. As on school board, we only have one employee, and that's the superintendent. As city council, isn't the mayor your employee? Okay, so, because you are elected by the people, why don't you have access to the things that you just asked for? You are elected by the people. You are elected to let us know what was going on. Ms. Alpha, you telling someone to shut up was wrong.
Direct to me,
Okay,
please.
absolutely, that was wrong.
You can make comments, you should not be making questions.
Okay, fine, the comment, that hurt us. That's the comment.
won't let me speak.
Don't engage.
I'm not coming to degrade or dehumanize anyone. I'm asking city council what the rules are. So now that I know he's not your employee, however, I listened to you, Mr. Santos, and you pointed out that you feel that you are here to represent the people. All of you are here to represent the people. The people are not having confidence in this mayor. We know that it doesn't do anything. However, it lets the mayor know he needs to do better. That's what a vote of non-confidence means. It means you do better by our people, by what we need in Allentown. Stop being obtuse and understand and work towards making this a better city. That's what the vote of non-confidence means. It means to tell him, do better. And that's how I see it as an elected official. Because that's what I would do, is to make the mayor say, we have to do better. Transparency. Transparency is really important. The fact that he didn't answer those questions, got a problem with it. That means hiding something. To us, that's what everybody thinks in here. He's hiding something. So, I'm asking you to do a vote of no confidence to let him know he needs to do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Redmond, Allentown, VA. The reason why I'm here is because, Karen was granted the right to sue by the EEO on, while she was out with her father's, illness, her father's death. When she returned to the mayor, and the mayor was aware of it, of the decision that the EEO had made to, give her the right to sue. When she returned to, work on that Monday, the mayor had he handled the situation with no courtesy. He had no passion or dignity for her, when she returned. The decision made to terminate her was during the fiscal year. The city cannot afford to have money paid out because of this issue. We felt as though that the mayor was unprofessional. It was what he did to Karen was unfounded and unjust. We want to know why he would do something like this in a time, like in this time. The lawsuit that Mr. Costo is filing is a burden on the city of Allentown. And I want to remind everyone that the two people that were involved in this are people of color. The people of color are the people who have the biggest complaint in the city of Allentown. And we have people of color who have master's degrees in this company, in the city of Allentown, who are led by people who just have a high school diploma. And we'd like to know, why is this so irresponsible on the mayor's part? Why is he acting like a kindergarten kid instead of being responsible? The city of Allentown belongs to the people. not him. And he works for the people in the city. He is biased and unfair in his decision. He dismissed people on the basis of his personal preference, and he does not on what they perform or how they conduct. The city of Allentown deserves a better leader. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. The mayor says that we've disappointed him. Well, the feeling is mutual. In time, I hope that an investigation will bring to light the full truth of what has happened in the last 2 years. In the meantime, what do we know? We know that the mayor's office has steadfastly refused to answer even basic questions about why city employees, the people's employees, were removed from their posts. The total lack of transparency risks dragging us back to the not-so-distant past and casting a pall over the city. City residents and this city council are entitled to basic answers to basic questions about the people whose salaries are paid by taxpayers, and we shouldn't need a no-confidence motion to get it. One last point. The top priority of this council is not to avoid drama. It is to do oversight. And this council can't do its job so long as City Hall continues to be a black hole of information. Work with him, talk with him, but above all, hold him accountable.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Good evening.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Douglas Bennett, and I was born and bred here, and I ended up going up to Massachusetts after college. And I'll tell you something, the city of Allentown, the city council here, the mayor, you guys actually are very tame, you work very well compared to a lot of other city councils and town councils out there. And I can give you some really good examples. I was living up in Boston, going to law school, and just this year, right, they had a city councilor named Kendra Lara, and she was speeding in an unregistered car, unlicensed, and she drove into a house, all right? I got elected up in Massachusetts, all right, as a county commissioner. All right, and I'll tell you something, if you think it's bad here, all right, a rival on the council with me, he and I got into a leg wrestling contest during a meeting. And you know what happened at the next meeting? He didn't show up because he quit. So let me tell you something. I think you guys are doing a good job. I think the mayor's doing a good job. The city looks beautiful, all right? And I'll tell you something. The best no vote confidence that you can get or have delivered is by the people at the polls. So if he's doing a bad job, the people are going to know, the people are going to come out and they're going to vote him out. If he's doing a good job, just like all of you, they're going to come out and vote for you, right? So all I'm saying is, whether you want to impeach someone, whether you want to give them a vote of no confidence, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. And that's the way government should work. And so I just wanted to share with you some other experiences, right, of other governments out there that are way more dysfunctional than the city of Allentown. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Pat Simpson, 215 North 9th Street. Whether I like the mayor or not doesn't matter. It's just whether we're talking about confidence or no confidence. Let's deal with actual facts. A young lady was fired 3 days after burying her father, 3 days before Thanksgiving. That's an act of violence. A single mom was let go 3 days before Thanksgiving, right after the EEOC had given her the right to sue. that's proving her case. We could have waited anywhere and done this right. When you terminated this young lady, right after the EEOC had gave her the right to sue, not only did you prove her case, you opened up our city for a class action lawsuit. So when we start talking about money and taxes and all this stuff y'all keep trying to take out of my pocket, you know, us who are actually in the fight every day, you know, that we're opened up to a class action lawsuit now. Because how many black and brown leaders have been fired under this administration, unfortunately? As they start to come together to organize, as you see how quickly the last HR director stated his piece, people are going to start to organize. You're a business owner, you state that over and over again. It takes 6 people to file a class action suit. A class action suit then takes the lawsuit to be multi-million-dollar lawsuit. It won't just be Karen. It won't just be Karen because no one is caring. It won't just be Karen. It won't just be her because it is proven now, right, that there's more than one. Right, I didn't even know why the HR director left. He put it in the paper. So that's another person of color, so we start adding up these people of color. You know, start adding up all it takes is one greedy lawyer, right? Or one really impetuous lawyer to say, I'm gonna jump on this class action lawsuit. Let me start to garner and bring together, you know, all of the pieces. It's easy to find out all of the people of color that were terminated over the last few years. And there's some brilliant ones. A Melanie Desinomo, there's brilliant ones. You know, that as we start to really think about what's going on here, you know, when you ask, what does a vote of non-confidence do? At this point, it tells our brother here, he has to check himself. At this point, it says that we are standing with the people, because you say you are here to represent the people. That's a citizen that got fired, that's now put into another, I have 5 minutes, I'm a group. You know, I'm an organization, so please stop that for a moment. Thank you. Now, that's a citizen who's now being put into poverty while we're talking about raising taxes. So we're caring about the people. Each person counts, not just numbers in the sky, right? Not just pie and nice phrases to say in front of people. Like, when she goes to bed at night, we talk about how uncomfortable it was for you to sleep. How do you think it was for her and her kid to sleep? How do you think it was for her kid to sleep knowing mommy don't have a job, but Christmas is coming? We could have waited till after the holidays. There's so many ways that we could have done this. So a vote of non-confidence says, hey, buddy, like, stop and think. Because even though I may have liked him personally, his leadership right now is questionable, whether we like him or not. You know, he asked for grace. When you ask for grace, you give grace. And grace would have been given at least the lady through the holidays. A single mom, 3 days after she buried her father. Like, a vote of non-confidence says, hey, that doesn't make sense. A week after she got approved for an EEOC complaint, hey, that doesn't make sense. And if the lawyers had given him the information on the 2nd, why did it take till the 20th to fire her? Why did it take till after she got the complaint, you know, approved to fire her? You had 18 days prior to. It's an act of retaliation whether we want to admit it or not. Sooner or later, we have to do what's right because it's right. We can't keep giving these funky speeches and watching Eddie get thrown out every week, you know, because he's passionate and he doesn't want to hear the nonsense, because it sounds like nonsense. You know, any person that can actually add 1 + 1 can see 2. You know, firing after investigation says it's good, it's bad, right? Firing 3 days after she buries her father is bad. Firing 3 days before Thanksgiving for a single mom when we know how hard it is to get turkeys right now is bad. That's an act of violence. You know, violence isn't just the guns being pulled out. Violence isn't just, you know, when Eddie yells and screams and you throw him out here. Violence is all of those little things that add up into it. When we talk about ending violence, we start by deterring it from the very beginning, right? And we're still talking about those employees, and you say the confusion. I still talk to employees who are still under the threat of being fired. They don't feel more comfortable. They're actually more on rocky ground. So a vote of non-confidence may be saying to your employees, I have confidence in you. I'm going to stand with you. You have to start to not put on these shows for the people and actually come into the hood with the people, come into the trenches with the people. I invite you any day. I'm out here every day, most times out of my own pocket. But this right here, the reason we vote non-confidence is because we're saying to the people, we're not going to sit here and say, when this class action lawsuit comes, because it's gonna come, because somebody's hearing me right now on 69. So there's one lawyer that's gonna figure this out. One, it only takes one, just one to figure this out. So when we talk about taxes, you can't raise taxes yet. And the reason you can't raise taxes yet is because you know that this lawsuit is coming. We're gonna need that money when the lawsuit hits. Give the kids and the people a break until then. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Carrie Holmes. I'm going to come as a representative of the Rising Sun Initiative, based in the east side of Allentown. President Hendricks, we're talking about humanity in policy. I think the community has just stated very well how disturbing it is to hear, for any reason, that someone returns from bereavement and burying their father, that they're fired.
Right.
Now, to know that there's additional information that even you and your colleagues didn't have the opportunity to review or weren't able to share with us is disturbing. We're talking about listening and communicating. Money is not all that matters. And I want to say that so very clearly, President Hendricks. A vote of no confidence for a mayor that you guys gave for a mayor that messed over our money. We're asking for a vote of no confidence for a mayor that seems like he thinks it's okay to mess over people. Because money isn't all that matters. We need you as our city council people to look at us as people and to look at this issue regarding people. We think that in some ways, you and your colleagues may be able to do that because there's a vote for an investigation. But now we're looking at an escalation beyond the investigation. So you're hearing our voices say that some of us do agree that a vote of no confidence is in order. And it's something that you've looked at before. And as I said, it's not just about money, it's about people. But if we want to talk about money, the mayor wants to increase our taxes to hire 23 new positions, and he isn't treating the people that are here very well at all, according to their very own statement. As a matter of fact, even individuals who may not be black or brown, they're addressing all these different issues and having to deal with the black and brown people feeling that they are displaced and mistreated and maligned and discriminated against. And that's one thing we have to understand about discrimination. Although black and brown voices may be bringing it to the forefront, it's something that affects all of us. Councilperson Napoli, he was saying that he has a sense of mental fatigue, and we really want him to be able to hear President Hendricks, the community, saying that racial discrimination is mental fatigue, harassment is mental fatigue. Inequity on your job, to be judged by the color of your skin rather than the content of your work or your character, is mental duress. We did not vote for children. How old do you have to be to vote? We know that as grown adults, you act like if you charge the mayor with equality and fairness and being above board, that he doesn't have broad enough shoulders
to take that charge and move the city forward in a positive direction, and everything's gonna fall apart because you said, hey, do better, and do better quickly. So this is to encourage the mayor in as much as all of this is going on, to undergo some diversity training. It is disappointing that we seem to have a failing of realization that the constituents and the voters are who matter here. It's really not about what city council feels. So that's why we're here, because we know that we vote for you to provide those checks and balances, and we vote for a mayor for all of our city. And I said this when I was at this podium before. Although it may be certain seats that got you where you are, President Hendricks, you took a vow and an oath, and you and your colleagues promised to be a voice for all of us, not just the West Side, or not just the East Side, or not just super voters like myself. But I trust you that even when I vote for you, you are going to listen to everyone in the city of Allentown as all of your constituents. And I trust you and vote for you, that you're going to be a voice for all, not just me as a super voter, because I stepped through the polls. We all deserve that from you. You speak of communication, and it is very disturbing, and you have to be aware of this, President Hendricks, that you people, and I'm going to my seat with this, is an ostracizing and othering term. It's known by most anyone who has taken Diversity 101. It moves me to tears to think that after all of our communication, after every Black History Month event that I think we are doing together, after all of our votes, after all of our conversation, after your colleagues tell us that you had dinner with us and we've been over to your house, that we're just that othering to you. That is hurtful, that is painful, but it is not impassable. I hope that it is not out of order for my brother to stand next to me, because I didn't know that I would feel this deeply about that. To hear one of your colleagues tell the community to shut up. We didn't vote for them, we voted for you. To hear us even when it's hard. We're voting you because we believe that you will do that, and you're not. And you said, you people, and that came from your heart. And your colleague, Councilman Napoli, said, who started this? That's an accusatory statement. You don't walk into a room and when you're looking for information and say, oh, what's happening? Who started this? That's a negative and ostracizing, and it is an accusatory term that lets us know he sees the Black and brown people saying, you've hurt us, our humanity. And you think we started something? We didn't start something. We're not the ones who started judging us by the color of our skin and not the content of our character. We didn't start that. It was our voices saying something is wrong in this city, and it's not right, and you proved tonight by calling us you people. We need diversity training, and we can do better, because it is horrible, but it is not impassable, and it is not impossible to change. It's not impossible for me to change. It is not impossible for you and your colleagues to change. It is not impossible for this city to change. And I, as a person of faith and a person of color and as a Black woman, am going to continue to believe that, no matter what you decide tonight. But it is disturbing what we've heard here today.
Amen.
My name is Karen Ocasio. I am the person who was just fired by Mayor Turk without a cause. I'm just here to say that I'm a little bit in disbelief. And I'm gonna use the term, some of you, maybe one of you, gave me a call and were so appalled and even offered me money. And now you're not willing to partake in this. It's hurtful to our community, it's hurtful to me, it's hypocritical for you to stand here and not
hold to your word of what you're supposed to do the right thing. Just last year for Thanksgiving, Mayor Turkinson wrote me a handwritten letter thanking me for my passion and for my willingness to always do the right thing. And then a year later, he fires me for the same thing he was just thanking me last year for. And he kicked me while I was down. But you know what? And let's just say, the person from council who called me and offered me this, I didn't take the money, let's just get that clear. Because my Lord and Savior will always provide for me. And I don't need to take from anybody in this world. And the same way that he fired me, the Lord, when one door closes, God has always opened a bigger door for me. So don't pity me, I'm okay. Do right by these people. Do right by the community, because this affects everyone. The employees, the community, everyone. You guys are up here approving things that they're not even doing anything for us. They're not doing anything for the poor people in this community, the one who are paying the taxes, who have you guys here. And you guys are not doing anything for us. Do the right thing. Because right now I'm looking at you people, whoever called me, the person who called me, whoever that may have been, I'm looking at you as a hypocrite. For you to stand here and not wanting to vote for this, and then you call me like in tears and all of this, you could never understand my pain. That someone fired me without a cause after I buried my father. A few days before my daughter's birthday and Christmas. My mother, a widow who is grieving, and I have to help my mother during her pain. No one can understand that pain. No one. Do the right thing by these people, because that's the reason why we voted you people in. Thank you.
You see the pain here? I mean, there's so much pain out there. Something needs to be done. I don't want anyone to get fired. But the reality is something needs to be done. A change has to take place here. I'm tired of Eddie coming up here every week with the same attitude because he's so passionate about what he feels. The reality is that you guys have to feel something about us for coming up here like this. There's some things that you can learn from us even, as we can learn from you. But we all gotta work together and getting it together. But we can't get it together by negative, downing people. We can't do it like that. You are our leaders. We put you guys in office. So we expect you to respect us as we respect you. Yes, there's some that might disrespect you, but you're supposed to do like he just said. You're supposed to take the higher road. You can't come down to my level because I'm not in the place that you are. See, we pay you guys to do what you do, and we need you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, permission to speak for 1 moment.
Yes.
Yes, given the next speaker, the city wants to remind Mr. Shahzad that as the former director of the city's Office of Human Resources, he has a continuing obligation to not disclose confidential employee information.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know, today is a very sad day for me. In my life, I've lived here all my life, I've worked here all my life. I have never stood and said anything negative about someone I worked for. And this is the first time in my life that I have to take the stand. I have to tell you, the mayor did one good thing when he hired me. Because they looked for 6 months to find someone, they found it, they paid for me. All I have to say is, he lacks leadership, he lacks passion, he has no compassion, he has no strength to be a good manager, he's not transparent. I think the city is going to suffer immensely through the lawsuits that will come. You have no idea how many lawyers have called me from Allentown. because they know this is a bonanza for them. And it hurts me because all of the citizens of the city will pay when you have to raise taxes.
Yes.
So I really think that whatever you do tonight, the message should go to the mayor, even if he stays another 2 years, that he needs to be a leader and not retaliate and not be vicious. He rules through fear. If you look at his leadership now, and you look at the people who are there, they are petrified. You know, I've been told many times to get back on the boat and go, but I never do. But I also know that I'm not one of those people who will say, I've got to do what the boss tells me. I have principles, and I had principles when I came here, and I only left a good job to come here because I believed the city needed someone. So all I have to do is say that some of you have shown strength and have expressed yourself. Others are reluctant, but giving a no confidence vote is only strengthening the city, so the mayor will know what is right and what is wrong. Right now, he is just immune. You know, a reporter called me last night and said, does he have a death wish? I said, I have no idea. Because to fire me, he should have consulted the labor attorney versus his own attorney. And they would have told him what to do with me. So anyway, I appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to you, and I wish you will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Quinn Allen, and if you want my address, I'll give you my ID.
Just state your address.
It's alright. It's in Allentown, 7th Street. So anyway, I'm a business owner of what's really going on in America. If I was to have employees and I did exactly what the mayor, from what I heard, what the mayor did, I would be, and had been investigated, I would be held accountable by the government. And from what I'm hearing tonight, there's a lot of information that was being asked, thank you, that's not being put out in the public, that should be. And because the people have the right to know what's really going on in their government, especially in their local government. So, all I can say is, let's get that information out ASAP. Let us people hold you guys accountable, the mayor accountable, because, and you see my shirt that says Human Lives Matter. I don't care about skin color. I don't care about that. People are human. People need to eat. People need shelter. They need to eat. They need to drink water. But they can't do that when we're raising taxes to the point where they end up homeless because they can't pay their city, their government. They can't do that when they're not making enough money. So, Allentown, I've been in Allentown for like over 20 years, and all I've seen over the last 20 years is a decline. Thank you for your time. Please, let's do better.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim Ramos, 1408 excuse me, I was at home after a long day of work, so you can hear it's the exhaustion in my voice. Per usual, when I sit home and I watch these meetings, the many things that upset me is the lack of cooperation with our community, the lack of leadership, and I hear some of you and some of the people speaking, questioning the leadership of Mayor Turk. This isn't news to anybody. We had a campaign, and this is not even a critique of Mayor Turk. Leadership is honestly sometimes more than just a skill, it's a gift. And it has to be in you. I cannot criticize the mayor or chastise the mayor for his lack of leadership ability. See, when you sit with enough leaders and you yourself are a leader, you can recognize the qualities of a leader. And during our campaign, I didn't recognize that in Mayor Turk. But I don't blame him for his failures now, because we had a campaign where we shared exactly our positions, and I got a chance to say, this man does not have the ability to lead. This man does not have the ability to manage. But I can sit here and look at some of you on the dais and know that you led our community astray by telling them to support him. And it's not just him. It's every leader that comes to this city that does whatever they want, and then who gets to deal with it? The people out there. The people sitting at home watching these videos, the people who get their taxes raised if the mayor wants to raise the taxes, the people who have to pay higher service fees, they're the ones who pay. Not as much as all of you, because you guys are already elected, you're on the inside. And sometimes you're happy with, I say it's the crummies for dummies. Because if you sell out the community for crumbs, then shame on you, 100%. So, many people can sit here and talk about his lack of ability, but everyone on the dais knew it. And you promoted it anyway, the same way you promoted previous mayors. And everyone kept their mouth shut. And now that you're frustrated, oh, well, we need to do something about it. Guys, we had an election. The time to do it was then. So you can't look at it now and say, oh, damn, we're in a sucky position again. You failed your constituents. Every leader who supports a bad one or a bad candidate, you failed your constituents and you failed this community.
Is there anybody else from the public? Seeing none. Mr. Hammond.
Okay, this is a vote on vote of no confidence. Mr. Napoli? No. Ms. Santos? Ms. Santos?
Are we saying no to no comments?
So a yes would support the resolution that says you have no confidence in the mayor's leadership, and no means you do not agree with the resolution.
Okay. I will say yes.
Yes? Is that yes? Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
No.
Ms. Affa?
No.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Okay, moving on, ordinances for introduction.
Bill 104 is an ordinance that provides for the South 6th Street deviation from the center line of Mason Street to the center line of Dixon Street.
And this will go to your committee, Mr. Zuko.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Bill 105. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Are there any comments to Bill 104? Seeing none. Mr. Zuko, that will be yours. Bill 105.
Bill 105 amends the 2023 capital fund budget to provide for a transfer of $20,492.21 from Blandy Park capital project into the senior bridges capital budget.
Okay, are there any comments from the public? Seeing none. Ms. Gerlach, this will go to your committee?
Yes, thank you. I think that meeting's December 12th.
Okay. Bill 107.
We got Bill 106. Bill 106 amends the 2023 capital fund budget to provide for a transfer of 49 cents from the citywide park playground capital project and structures capital.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will also go to your committee, Mr. Locke.
Thank you.
Bill 107.
Bill 107 amends the 2023 capital fund budget to provide for an appropriation of $4,250 from the Trexler operating budget to the D&L Trail capital account to assist in design and construction of the D&L Trail.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will also go to your committee, Mr. Locke.
Thank you.
Bill 108.
Bill 108 amends the 2023 capital fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $614,417 from the Delaware Lehigh National Heritage Corps to support design and construction of the D&L Trail.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This likewise will go to you, Ms. Gerlach. You're going to be a busy person.
Looking forward to it.
Bill 109.
Bill 109 amends the 2023 general fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $2,000 from Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful and your efforts to support the volunteer event by Giants.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will also go to your committee, Ms. Gerlach.
Thank you.
Bill 110.
Bill 110 amends the 2023 general fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $37,783 from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development local share account for the purchase of a vehicle for Lehigh Valley People of the Month.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will go to your committee, Ms. Moda.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And Ms. Gerlach is right. Bill 111.
Bill 111 amends the 2023 general fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $51,688.80 from PPL for the completion of phase 2, 3, and 4 of the LEDs.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will go to your committee, Mr. Zuko.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Bill 112.
Bill 112 amends the 2023 general fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $1,572,808.51 from UGI for the purpose of constructing ADA handicapped ramps and for milling and paving streets and city's utility paving project.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Mr. Zuko, this will also be in your committee. Bill 113.
Bill 113 repeals ordinance 15938 passed on August 16, 2023, by administering now the grant from the Bureau of Building Standards and Safety and creating proper accounts as required under the grant.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. This will go to your committee, Mrs. Noto.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything for new business? Anything for good and welfare? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.